All right, guys, Mr. Antonucci here, and in this video, we're going to talk about confidence intervals for a difference in population means, and specifically, we're going to talk about checking the conditions. So previously, we learned how to construct and interpret and check the conditions for a confidence interval looking for a mean difference in the special case of paired data. But what if we want to provide an interval estimate for the difference between two different population means? That's when we're going to do this particular situation. So here's the conditions. Three same conditions as before, random 10%, normal large sample. But with the random, since we're doing a confidence interval for the difference between two populations, the data have to come from two independent random samples or from two groups in a randomized experiment. The 10% condition is going to apply. In this case, both samples have to be less than 10% of the population that they're being sampled from, and the normal large sample condition has to be met. So either the data come from an approximately normally distributed population, or the sample size is greater than or equal to 30 for each sample. If neither of those are true, if you don't know the population distribution and the sample size is less than 30, then you want to graph the sample data to look for no strong skewness or outliers in that situation. So what we're going to do is just quickly check the conditions for constructing a 99% confidence interval for the difference between two means are met here. Um, so just context, a recent college graduate is considering a job offer that would allow them to live in New York City or Chicago. To help make the decision, they want to estimate the typical cost of living in each city. So they have the data in the monthly rent in dollars for independent random samples of 10 one-bedroom apartments in each city. So we have our parameters here. Mu1 is the population mean monthly rent of one-bedroom apartments in New York City, and Mu2 is for the same thing in Chicago. So we want to check the conditions there for a 99% confidence interval. So first thing we want to do is check the random condition. So the samples are independent random samples of 10 one-bedroom apartments in New York City and 10 one-bedroom apartments in Chicago. Again, when you're checking the conditions, you can't just write the word random in a check. You have to say specifically. And in this case, where you have two independent random samples, you have to state it about each sample. The 10%, it's reasonable to assume that in both cases, 10 is less than 10% of all one-bedroom apartments in New York City and in Chicago. And then for the normal large sample condition, so both sample sizes are only 10, which is less than 30. We don't know what the population distribution is, so we have to create a plot. Now, what we did here was we created a box and whisker plot. Notice that you have the two separate plots, each one labeled. Also, you have an axis with a label on here. So it's important that because the sample size is less than 30, it's small, and you don't know the population distribution, you have to put a display of the data to check for any strong skewness or outliers. So in this case, it looks like the Chicago may have some skewness to it, but it's not super strong. So we're good there. So both box plots are skewed to the right. Chicago is moderately skewed to the right, but neither box plot shows any really strong skewness or outliers. So in this case, the conditions are met, and that's how you do it. All right, guys, that's it for this one.